back everyone to the next video in our series on the Falling Object game. In this video we'll be looking at how to add in all of our user interface type things, text boxes on the screen for scores and lives and other things as needed. So let's jump right on into it here. So here's our project so far, and the first thing we're going to need to do is put some text on the screen here for our lives and for our score. So to add that, you go up into your hierarchy here, and what we're going to do is we're going to create, and then we're going to go to UI, which stands for user interface, and let's grab a text. Now when I created that text, you notice that it also created this thing called a canvas, and inside of that it put my text, and if you look on the screen here really small, you can see that text there. If I zoom out in my scene view, you'll see I've got this really big canvas here. This is my canvas, and the canvas is set to something called a screen space overlay. So click your canvas in the hierarchy over in the inspector. You've got a couple of different options for canvases. You can do a screen space overlay, which basically just overlays my screen. They draw it really big to the side here so that we can see it and play with it over here where it doesn't get in the way of our game layout in the scene view. So whatever I put here will scale itself to whatever size my camera is. We also have what's called a screen space camera, which will actually allow us to assign a particular camera to do all of our drawing of our UI elements. And then we have world space canvas, which is kind of like an it's like an in-game object. It's like a billboard that you could set in your game, and it sits in a fixed spot, and players can walk up to it and look at it, and when they walk away it just stays where it is. So those are really cool as well. We're just going to stick with the screen space overlay here for now. So I'm just going to leave that checked. And then I'm going to go to my text object, which is right here. When you're working on the canvas, they have this thing called the canvas tool here up in the top. And this is just a way for us to edit canvas. It works with sprites and things as well. So I can just go in here and grab this, and I can drag it around where I want to put it on the screen. So I'm going to do this for my score, I think. I'm going to put it up here in the top corner. And of course we can zoom in on it here a little bit, and you can see up in your game view kind of where it's going to be in here. Okay, so we start by dropping the text in. We're going to go ahead and position that text where we want it to be, and then what we need to do is set an anchor point. So I'm on the text. Over in the inspector there's a thing called a rect transform. That just shows the position and size and all that of your text box here. And this thing right here called anchors, if I click that, it gives me a lot of different presets. So what I want to do is I want to set an anchor point for this text object that will keep it anchored to the part of the screen I always want it to stay near, because maybe somebody will play this game in a different resolution, and when we scale the whole size of our screen, we want our UI elements to stay in the areas where we want to put them. So in this case I'm in the upper left corner, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to click here for the top left anchor preset. You notice when I did that I got a little X here. So now no matter how big I make the screen, this text is always going to stay as far from the top as it is now and as far from the left side as it is right now. So it doesn't matter what size I scale my camera to, like if I drag this bigger or smaller, that text is just sitting up here in that top corner. Alright, so that's our first step here, is getting an anchor point set. Now inside of a text object we have a text element here, and this is the actual text that's going to be displayed to the screen. So I like to put some placeholder text in here to get an idea for the size of the text and how much size of a text box I need. So this is going to be for my score. So we'll put score in there, maybe semicolon, a space, and let's say let's put maybe a 4-digit score in there. Maybe that's about as many points as they're going to be able to score. We have the choice of importing fonts and using different fonts. We're going to stick with Arial for now. Let's go ahead and make that bold though so it stands out some more. We have a font size here. That's pretty small font size, so let's go maybe to a 25 and see what that looks like. And then we have a lot of the other kind of rich text editing features, alignment, and what to do if you overflow your box and all this type of thing. Another thing you could do is use best fit, which will actually size your text to best fill the whole space of the box. You lose a little bit of control though if you do best fit, so it just depends on what you want. I'm going to leave that off for now. Color allows me to specify the color of my text. So now I can come in here and change my color to whatever color I want. Okay, so for now we want just a color that stands out nicely on the screen for our points. So maybe I'll use something like this cyan type of a blue-green color for now for score, and we'll pick that. And then if we look at this in full screen, and to switch to full screen, I was hovering over the game view, and I did shift with the space bar, and that flipped me in the full screen. So now I can see what this game looks like at its full display resolution in its finished display size. Again, to see this, you actually have to select standalone here from your display list. If you're in free aspect, it just fills up whatever available space your screen has. So you actually want to make sure you're in the resolution of your finished game product, which in this case I'm using standalone. So that actually looks pretty good as far as size and spacing, and it's easy to see with the colors we've got going on right now. So I think we're going to do that. I'm going to do Shift Spacebar again to go back to my editor view here where I can see all my windows and not just that one in maximized. Okay, so that's going to be our score. Let's also set up another text box for our lives. So over here in our hierarchy in our canvas, we're going to end up with two texts. We should probably name these so that they're unique, so that we know which one is which. So I'm just going to call this my score text. And then I'm going to go here to my canvas. Another quick way you can add an item to the canvas would be just to right click and go to UI and text, or if you've already got one that's set up kind of the way you want, like the score text, I'll probably do live, so it's basically the same font, size, color, all of that. I can right click it and I can duplicate it. So if I duplicate it, I get another one, and with that selected, I can go here and I can pull this guy off of here, and I can put him over in the corner, kind of similar padding and spacing to the one that I had before. Okay, and then I can go here and just change its name to lives text. There we go. And then in this one, let's go ahead and change this to say lives, and we're going to start with 3 lives, so we'll just put a 3 there. We're not probably going to go bigger than single-digit lives, so then we could look at do we need this much space here. We could slide that text box a little smaller, and then we can move the whole thing over a little bit more into the corner so that it pads a little bit better. And the other thing we could do is we could go into this one and set its alignment to the left side so that it's always going to be the same distance from the, set the alignment to the right side so it'll always be the same distance from the right side, just like this one's set to the left side. So I could do that as well and drag that over just a little bit more. That would keep things maybe lined up a little bit more along the edge there of my screen. Alright, so now I've got a canvas and I've set up 2 text boxes here. Okay, so the next thing we want to do here is make it so that we can actually change the text that's in this box during runtime. Alright, so every time I score a point, I want to go out here and I want to display my new score into this text box. Every time I lose a life, I want to go out here to my lives text and I want to change the text that's inside that box. Okay, so let's go look to see where a good place is to put that. I'm going to go ahead and save my scene here by doing Control S, just because I added some new elements into my hierarchy here. Let's go into Mono Develop and take a look at our player script. Alright, here we are in MonoDevelop looking at our player script. And the reason I'm looking in the player script is because player script is where we've actually put our score and our lives variable. So player script is the one that is keeping track of all of this. So we're going to use the player script to also send that information to the screen. So the first thing we need to do if we're going to be accessing UI elements from our script is we have to add another using up here at the top. So I'm going to say using, and then it's going to be Unity Engine .ui. And what that does is it goes out and attaches to my script here all the different subroutines, functions, methods that Unity has built in to handle the UI. So now I can access those and I can set up the things I need to be able to change the text in the box. The next thing I need to do is I need to have a way to link to those text boxes on the screen. So I'm going to make a variable to hold a link to them. So we're going to make a public text that's going to get us be able to link to a UI text, which is what we have on the screen there, and we'll call it lives text. And then let's also make a public text for our score text. So now we've got two variables set up there. We'll go ahead and link these in the inspector. So this will just be the link to the lives text on the screen. And same thing here, link to the score text on the screen. That's what those things are going to hook to. So we're going to go ahead and save our script, and let's go back out into Unity and establish those links real quick. So I'm going to click in on my player, and in his script now I've got the lives text and the score text. There they are. So now I can just drag those in from my hierarchy. So I can grab my lives text here and I can drag and drop it right here in lives text, and I can grab my score text and drag and drop it right to there. So now the script will know what lives is and what score text is. It has a link to these text boxes, and now I can actually then modify everything about those from my script. So let's go back into MonoDevelop here. Okay. So at the beginning of the game, we want to make sure that these boxes show our starting amount of lives and score. So here we're in the start function, we're setting score to 0 and lives to 3. So let's go and say lives text, and then we have to say .text. That's how we get to the actual text that's in the box. We're going to set that equal to lives, and then we have to say toString after that, because lives is a integer number. So this text holds a string. So if I just send it an integer, I'm probably going to get an error because it's going to tell me it can't make an integer into a text or into a string. ToString just takes whatever you put before it and converts it to a string. So it's going to convert that integer 3 to a string 3, and then my text box will be happy to take that in its text field. I'm also going to go in here to score and set score text. Whoops. Auto completed the wrong one. Let's try that again. Let's go to our score text .text, because I want to go to that text box, and let's set that equal to score to string. Alright, so let's just see what happens with this much done. I'm going to save my script and go back out into Unity, and let's just watch up here what happens on our screen when I hit play. Alright, so you see I've got a 0 and a 3 over here. Okay, so it's just showing me the number. It's not showing me that label anymore because I went into the scores text here and I just said put what my current score is, which is 0, and then to the lives text I said just put the number of my lives. So if we wanted to keep the labels, we actually have to include that in our script here. When we overwrite that box, it just wipes out everything that was already there. So what we could do here is rewrite this to say that this text equals, and we can put in some quotes here, so we give it a string, and we can say lives, put our colon there, and then maybe a space or two to pad that over, and then we put a plus sign in between these two pieces. So basically I'm saying build me a string to put in text. The first piece is this, that's in the quotes, and then jam onto the end of that my lives to string. So we've got our live, that should make our lives text change. Let's do the same thing here for score. So before we give the number, let's give a label. We'll say score, and then we put the plus sign there, and then we'll send our score out to there. So now it will always say these words in front of the numbers. So let's go take a look at that. Alright, so we'll hit play here, and now we'll see that it says score 0, lives 3. Okay, so that's good. Now, it's not actually going to give me my points yet. It's not going to take away lives yet, because we're not telling it to do that. Okay, but it does have our labels up there, and they look much nicer. Alright, now we got to tie in our scripting here, how to update these lives and score when they change. So to do that, let's start with score. Every time we score a point, we want to update our score text. So we have to think, where do we know we've scored a point? Where is that happening? Well, if you remember, we have a function down here called score points that gets called by the following object script when there's a collision with a bullet and a falling object. So right now we're adding to our score right here. So after we add to our score, it would be a great place to update our score on the screen. So let's just put a little note here. We'll just update the score text on the screen with our new score. So to do that, it's the same exact thing we just did at the beginning to initialize it. So I can actually go up here and just copy this line, and I'm going to paste it right back down in here. There we go. So now, after I add my new points, very important that you add the points first so you get the actual updated score. Then we're going to go out to that score text, and we're going to overwrite what's there, and we're going to give it our new score that we just updated. So that will give us our score. Let's go out and test it. Let's see if it'll actually update on the screen for us. I'm going to hit play here. Let's shoot a couple of guys. There you go. See, I've got score 10, 15, there's 20, 25. So remember, we're getting 5 points every time we shoot one of these falling objects here right now that we kind of set up. That's how many points they're worth. So that's working just fine, and our score is displaying and updating as I score points. So that works fine. Let's do the same for live. So again, we have to go in the script where we know we've lost a life. And we have in our player script here this function called lose life, which is called from the falling object script when a falling object hits a player. And that is, of course, checking to see if our lives, taking one away from our lives. Then we're checking to see if our lives are greater than 1. Then we're checking to see if our lives are less than 1. If we are, we're over. But either way, let's put in down here at the bottom of this, let's put in our update for our lives text. So again, I can just copy this because it's the same exact thing I'm going to do here. I'm just updating the number of lives. I can come down here and paste that in. So we're gonna update the lives text on the screen, and this will do it with our current number of lives. Now, one kind of a cleanup thing here that we could do is if for some reason lives were to get below 0, we could end up with a negative in our lives. Probably not going to happen the way we have this written, because right here we're checking to see if we're less than 1, we're just going to trigger our game over. But what we could do, just to make sure that we don't get some sort of a weird negative number in there, if we got for some reason two hits in the same frame, we could just set lives equal to 0 here, just so that our text will display correctly with the 0. That just takes out any possibility that we could get a negative lives up there for some weird reason. Okay, so we're going to save that, and then we should be set. So now we should see our lives updating on the screen. Let's test it out. Alright, so we're going to play. Let's score a couple points. Okay, let's get hit. Now we're at 2 lives. That updated. 3 lives, or sorry, 1 life and 0 lives. So there it says live 0, and just the other video where we made our player disappear when he is out of lives works just fine. So there we go. We've got our score working and updating, and we've got our lives updating and working just the way that we would expect them to. So that's going to be it for this video on how to set up our basic UI. In the next video, we'll talk about how to restart or quit the game when it's over. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you have a question or a comment or an idea, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. If you like the videos and you want to keep updated when things come out, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And I appreciate you watching and hope this has been helpful. Have a great day.